afternoon, everyone. My name is Samantha Mowat. I'm a clairvoyant psychic and a contactee, and today I'd like to discuss with you the foundation of psychic abilities. Although it is widely believed that we, as humans, possess 5 senses, in actuality we possess more than that. Our 6th sense is our ability to perceive energy, and the different ways in which we're able to do this is through our psychic abilities. Some of the more commonly known psychic abilities are clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, clairgustance, and claircognizance. Within each of these categories are subcategories. For instance, within clairvoyance there's the ability to perceive the aura, to do remote viewing, and to have visions. Although there are other abilities contained within this ability, I will go into further detail about this later. Many of these concepts may not initially make a lot of sense, and I ask that you watch these videos with an open mind, because it is my intention to help you further develop your own intuition, and one of the easiest ways in which you are able to do this is through recognition of when you are using your psychic abilities in your day-to-day life. As you become conscious of the fact that you are using these abilities, you will further be able to rely upon the information you are receiving, and in turn, your ability to connect into other dimensions will become easier. One thing I'd like to mention around this is we've all had moments of clear intuitive ability. Say, where you've seen a ghost, or you're sensing, so let's say you're changing jobs, and you're presented with a job offer, and right away you feel like, yeah, this is good for me, I should do it. The difference between having underdeveloped psychic abilities and having developed psychic abilities is the amount of information you're able to pull through. Someone with underdeveloped psychic abilities would sense, yes, I should go for his job. But someone with more developed would get a, yes, you should go for this job. It will increase the amount of money you're receiving and be good for your soul development. Do you see the distinct difference there between the amount of information brought through? It is a very simple thing to do, developing your psychic abilities, and that is part of what I'm here to help you with. I am also here to help you further understand that science and spirituality are really telling very similar stories, but in very different ways. The scientific community has been researching and developing further knowledge about the existence of our multidimensional reality and the nature of reality. Part of what they have been doing is trying to understand how we are on one dimension, operating in one frequency, yet all around us are other dimensions occupying the same space, but they're operating at a different vibrational frequency, and as a result are not generally perceived by the majority of people. There are those that are able to access into these dimensions without the use of technology, through their conscious evolution. Everyone is able to do this, whether it is communicating with our deceased loved ones through our mediumship abilities, communicating with multidimensional beings. Things of this nature are something that we are all able to do, and I'd like to help you gain a further understanding about the different clairs. That way you can understand which intuitive ability you feel would be easiest for you to develop at this time. Clairvoyance is the ability to see on a multidimensional level. When we perceive energy, we are looking beyond the 3rd dimension and into the multidimensional reality that we coexist within. It is through the use of clairvoyance that abilities such as visions, aura viewing, remote viewing, precognition, and retrocognition are all possible. Although these may seem like entirely different abilities, they all stem back to the development of the 3rd eye, and in turn, clairvoyance. A clairvoyant is someone who is able to see a wider range of the energy frequencies, and therefore see more of the light spectrum. As you may recall from when we were all in high school, we learned about the visible light spectrum. And do you remember how we can only see this tiny little speck? And yet the whole spectrum would have encompassed several pages or something like that from what my teacher had said. But we can only see the smallest amount. If you think about it, the different vibrations are the different areas of the light spectrum. And when you develop things like your clairvoyance, your ability to see more of the light spectrum actually increases. It is with your clairvoyance that abilities such as seeing ghosts, your deceased loved ones, seeing orbs of light, and even various multidimensional beings such as fairies, angels, reptilians, and greys are all possible. It is a bit of a tricky ability though, because clairvoyance can manifest in a number of different ways. The first of which is you may see things with your physical eyes. Let's say you are sitting on the couch, and while you're watching TV, you notice this spark of light that appears for a moment, and then it disappears. Well, this would actually be an energetic being that's moving across your field of vision, and is your clairvoyance that's picking up on the change in the vibrational frequency. Another example of clairvoyance with your eyes is, let's say you're outside, and while you're outside, you're admiring what a beautiful day it is, how blue that sky is, and off in the distance you see a bunch of trees. Well, when you're looking up at the sky and a little bit over those trees, you may notice that there's a slight glow that's coming from the trees, where it looks like the sky's a little bit lighter near the trees, rather than being that deep, deep blue, all the way from the top of the sky where there's nothing, all the way down to the ground. What you're seeing is you're seeing the energetic frequency being emitted by the trees, and you're noticing their aura. It's such an amazing thing, and as you start to actually really look at the energy coming out of the trees, you'll start to see it getting bigger and growing brighter. It's quite fun. Another way in which your clairvoyance can manifest is through visions within your third eye. This can be one that people quite often dismiss because they think it's just thoughts coming into their mind, rather than picking up on the energetic vibrational frequency being emitted by those around them. Let's say, for example, you are talking to a friend, and while this friend is talking, they're getting really excited because they're planning on going on vacation, and before they really get a chance to tell you more about where they're going or what they're thinking about doing, you have a few things pop into your mind. You see white sandy beaches, then you see tropical trees, and then you see a dolphin. And then a couple moments later, your friend's like, yeah, I'm so excited, I'm gonna go to Cancun and go snorkeling with dolphins, it's gonna be great. And then you think to yourself, well, that's weird. I was just thinking about beaches and dolphins. And then you just dismiss it because you're not trusting your intuition. Well, that's something I'd like for you to work on. When you start to have these images coming into your mind, these thoughts, these things that really have no initial premise or no reason for coming into there, I'd like for you to stop and really just take notice of them. Realize what it is that you're receiving. Because it's quite common for people to receive information through the energetic signature of the people around them prior to actually hearing what they say. For instance, when you end up, well, let's say you're touching something, you get a scarf from a friend, and all of a sudden you get the vision in your mind of them being in a store, and they drop the scarf, and then they all of a sudden run it over with their cart. Well, you can just jokingly ask them, hey, by any chance, did you drop the scarf when you're in the store? And did you accidentally run it over? And even if the scarf doesn't look like there's anything wrong with it, it's worth asking, because it is good to get that confirmation of when you're having these visions coming into your mind. The more you become aware of the fact that you are receiving this information and that it's accurate, the stronger it is going to get. Clairaudience is the ability to hear on a multidimensional level. It is with your clairaudient abilities that you are able to hear a wider realm of vibrational frequencies. And if you are a clairaudient, then you are someone who has their ear chakras clear and functioning properly. With clairaudience, it's a pretty interesting gift, because sometimes when you're receiving clairaudient information, you may receive small snippets of information, like a yes or a no, that only lasts for a couple seconds, or you may receive longer, more detailed answers that can last for a couple minutes or even the full length of a conversation. So when something like this happens and you're having that communication with your guides, sometimes you'll be hearing it with your ears, and other times you'll hear it within your mind. Now, you may hear all sorts of things with clairaudience. You may hear singing, laughing. You may hear things like someone walking around, or someone drumming, someone even knocking on your walls. So when you are hearing these things, you're hearing them with a clear indication that there's nothing that could be providing this physical sound. And the interesting thing around clairaudience is You may also receive your messages from your guides with a repetition of words, phrases, or even continually hearing one song over and over again. So let's say that you keep, whenever you go turn on the radio, or you hit shuffle on your phone, or you walk into a grocery store, you keep hearing a song. I want for you to take note of what that song is, because chances are your guides are trying to communicate with you and provide you with further insight about something that's going on in your life or what's about to come up. This happened to me one time, and at the time I was in grade 12, and I didn't realize that my guides could communicate with me through the repetition of a song. And the song I kept hearing was Suds in a Bucket by Sarah Evans. Now, this song is about a young woman who's 18 years old, so obviously quite young, and she's living with her family. Then all of a sudden, this young man comes into her life that drives a white pickup truck, and she falls head over heels for him, leaves her friends, leaves her family, and drives out to Vegas. So the reason why I bring this part up is my guides were giving me an indication of what was coming up for me. At the time, being in grade 12, I had thought that I would either be going to Europe and backpacking around for a year, or I would go to university. I was really going like this a fair bit, trying to figure out what it is I wanted to do. And if I had paid more attention to the meaning behind this song, I would have realized that I needed something that was more fun, something that really felt free and just kind of go with the flow and allow for things to take place naturally. So, what's interesting around this is when you hear this repetition of a song, I want for you to go onto Google. I want for you to type in the name of the song that you're hearing and look up the lyrics. See what significance they have for either a question that you've asked recently. Let's say you're trying to decide between what to do, or they may be giving you an idea of what's coming up for you. Either way, it's very important to take that into account to really get an idea of what's going on. Another aspect that you want to take into account with clairaudience is when you're receiving this information from the different entities, beings, angels that you're connecting with, you really want to pay attention to the vibrational frequency being emitted by them. Because the vibrational frequency is going to give you an idea about what intention they have and the information they're providing you with as to how accurate it's likely to be. For instance, it is a common misconception within those newly developing their psychic ability. One second, throat chakra imbalance. Thank you. It is a common misconception for those newly developing their psychic abilities that anything they hear is their angels and their guides and that it's safe and that it's accurate. Well, no, that's not necessarily the case. What I want for you to do is when you're connecting to these beings, feel their vibrational frequency. How does it feel in your body? And the reason I want you to do that is when it's someone who's operating on a higher vibrational frequency, like our angels, our guides, or even our deceased loved ones, their vibration is going to feel loving, it's going to feel safe, it's going to feel like something you can trust. However, if it's someone from the lower astral, then their vibration is going to feel totally different. When you're connecting to your guides, you will have that feeling of safety, and you're going to sense that the answer is intuitively right. However, if it's someone who's operating from the lower astral, then their intention is not necessarily as clean and loving for you as someone who is, say, from a higher vibration. And how you can tell the difference is beings from the lower astral will feel denser. Their energy is going to feel heavy when it's around yours. They're going to feel almost like it's going to feel kind of chaotic and kind of, you know, when you're feeling antsy or uncomfortable, that's a very common feeling for someone of the lower astral. You may also feel scared, or you may feel the sense of fluctuation, because them trying to talk with you means they have to try to raise their vibrational frequency to being higher and clearer to connect with you. So what they're going to try to do is to give you a few answers that are accurate or relevant for you, and then start providing misleading information afterwards. And that's a very common thing. If you do find that you are having beings talking to you, and let's say you're talking to beings and you're feeling good about talking to them, you're feeling comfortable, and you're having a bit of difficulty hearing them, here's what you can do. You can be like, hey, I'm having a little difficulty hearing you. Could you please talk louder? Or could you please talk clearer? Let's say that you're actually feeling uncomfortable talking to these beings, then you can do the opposite. You can say, could you please stop talking to me and leave me alone? That's completely reasonable. if you're finding that you're having these beings communicate with you and you're very uncomfortable with it, then you can always call upon beings like Archangel Michael to help deal with the situation, or you can take a more proactive approach. You can raise your own vibrational frequency to a point that those beings are not able to come into contact with you. Because if your vibrational frequency is vibrating too high for them, then your vibration is faster and then they can't connect with you. That is a much more logical long-term approach than relying upon angelic beings or beings of other vibrational frequencies to help protect you. Now, another thing I want to mention about clairaudience before I conclude this part is with your clairaudience, if you have that already, your ability to bridge over towards telepathy is so simple. Clairaudience are naturally the most gifted form of psychic to learn how to do telepathy. And the reason why I recommend that if you're clairaudient that you start to develop telepathy exercises is telepathy provides a much clearer and more concise way to have communication with not only angelic beings but with others. And by doing this, you'll actually have more clear, concise information coming in. Clairsentience is the most commonly experienced psychic ability. It is also the most commonly perceived psychic ability. So, what is clairsentience? It is the ability to sense the energetic fluctuations that you encounter in your day-to-day life. A clairsentient is someone who is able to feel on an energetic level the differences between their energy body, the energy of the locations that they're going into, the energy of the objects around them, and the people they encounter. What's interesting around clairsentience is it's really as versatile as the colors that we see with our eyes. I want for you to think of energy as being these different vibrations, and each vibration is unique and each vibration holds its own information. So you may be wondering, okay, what does energy feel like? Well, I'm going to give you an example because I think that's going to help you get a better understanding. Let's say you walk into a house, and upon walking into that house, you have a sense of calmness and you have a sense of safety. Instantly you're relaxed. This is you actually picking up on the energetic frequency being emitted within that location. Now, let's go with the opposite. Let's say you're in a really crowded location, like a fair or a concert or anything along those lines, where you're surrounded by a lot of people. As you first arrive at that location, you're feeling level-headed, you're feeling pretty happy to be there, you have a sense of calmness. But within 5 or 10 minutes, you start to notice that you're beginning to feel irritable, and then a little while later, you're going to have a sense of sadness, and you're like, okay, well, that's weird, I don't know why I'm feeling sad. And then a while later, you're back to feeling really happy and joyous, and then you're just noticing that you're picking up a bunch of these emotions. So what's happening is you're picking up on the energetic frequency being emitted by the people you're encountering. And because your energetic field is not protected, it isn't cleared, you're holding on to that energy and believing it to be yours. So when you first sense energy, it's important to determine, is this energy located outside of me, or is this an energy I'm feeling inside of my body? And if I am feeling it inside of my body, where in my body am I feeling it? Am I feeling it in my head? Am I feeling it in my chest? Am I feeling it in my stomach? You may even feel energy in your feet, or you may feel energy, let's say, behind your eyes. It's amazing the locations that you'll start to feel it, especially when you start to pin it down. Now, once you've determined if it's outside your body or inside your body, you're going to want to look at how does that energy feel. Energy goes from a whole wide range of areas. It can feel very light to feeling quite heavy. Lighter energy tends to feel, it almost has a sense of calmness to it. It can feel loving or playful. It tends to feel like it's a faster vibration. Quite often, lighter energy does feel warm, but that isn't necessarily an indication of something being higher vibrational, but I'll get into that in a second. Alternatively, energy can feel quite heavy, or it can feel like it's fluctuating. Sometimes energy can feel like you're standing in the ocean with the waves hitting you, where it's really intense one moment and then lets up and comes back to being intense again. The thing you want to take into account with the energy is determining whether it feels like it's pleasant for you or non-pleasant. Another aspect of energy you want to take into account is temperature. Energy can feel very warm or hot. It can feel cold. It can range anywhere in there. And this is by no means an indication about the person or the entity you're communicating with as to whether they're higher vibrational or lower vibrational, good or bad, however you choose to perceive them in that sense. Really, you're just reading the energy at the frequency in which it's being emitted. Now, the interesting thing around energy, and something I hear quite often from people, is when they have a recognition of someone. Let's say you encounter someone for the first time, and as soon as you meet them, you're like, I know this person. I swear, I've met them before in a past life, or I must have met them at a different point in my life, or something along those lines, or have an instant sense of kinship or romantic love towards them. This is you picking up on the energetic vibration being emitted by their soul. What's interesting is from our lives, it doesn't matter if it's this life, a past life, or many lifetimes ago, the energetic signature being emitted by you will be fairly consistent. Yes, you can go through a tremendous amount of soul growth and do a lot of clearing and healing and things along that nature, which will raise your vibrational frequency. But what you want to take into account is the essence of who you are, the essence of your soul group, is going to maintain a fairly consistent vibrational frequency. So that is something I'd really like for you to just take into account. So there are two areas that are primarily focused upon within clairsentience. You have psychometry, which is the ability to read the energy being emitted within a location or within an object. So let's say, well, it's actually really common when you see in movies, where someone will go see a psychic and they'll pass a watch that belonged to their deceased father, deceased grandfather, or a ring that belonged to someone, and the psychic will say things like, okay, I'm sensing a stern person, I'm sensing things like someone who's very consistent or very loving. Really what that person is doing is they're picking up on the vibrational field that has been almost like it's infused within that object. And it's quite it's quite a fun thing to do, and something you can do easily too. Another aspect of psychometry that you can learn how to do is if you know someone who's pregnant, or you yourself are going to be having a child, and you're not sure what the gender is because you're either choosing to wait until it's born or you're going to find out at a later date, you can grab something that's blue or something that's pink. And when you have these two in front of you, you can be like, okay, what gender is the child who is going to be born? You can say, what gender is my baby? And this is something I did when I was pregnant, and it worked both times, and I've had a lot of my clients try it. So what you'll do is you'll hold something blue, let's say there's a table in front of you, and right here's the blue thing, and right here's the pink thing. You'll take your hand over the blue thing, and you'll feel whether you feel energy coming up. If you don't feel anything, then that's an indication that there's not a strong energy resonance coming up from that aspect. But let's say you move your hand over towards the pink object and you're feeling heat, you're feeling tingly, it almost feels like something's rising up into your hand, then that's a sign of energy coming in. That's your psychometry. Isn't that really cool? I know it's quite a bit of fun. Now, the other one I had talked about a moment ago was empaths. You probably have heard the term of someone being an empath. Now, an empath is a clairsentient who has a more developed ability than most typical clairsentients. They're the people who will walk into a room, especially places like hospitals or a room where someone's sick or someone has passed or anything like that, and instantly start crying, have a sense of sadness. Or an empath can walk into a room where there's been a concert and start feeling really, chatty and playful, and it's like they have a bit of a harder time maintaining their own emotional field. And this is because the empath is feeling the energy to such an extent, the energy that's been released by the people who've been in that area, that it overwhelms their emotional body because they're such a psychic sponge. It is very important for empaths, psychometrists, and clairsentients to ground their energy, to protect their energy, and to shield their energy. When you ground your energy, you're making it so that your energetic field is connected into the Earth's field. So it's almost like you send a grounding cord going either from your root chakra down to the center of the Earth, or imagining, let's say, roots coming out of your feet, or things along that nature. This will help you to maintain a clearer head if you're a clairsentient or an empath or a psychometrist. Now, when you're putting up energy protection on yourself, this is because you want to have that filter layer between you and the outside world. Because you're more of a sensitive is actually the most common term for people of this grouping. they are such psychic sponges that if they don't have that protection, it's very easy for them to lose track of what is truly their emotion and what is someone else's. And same with pain. It is very common for empaths and clairsentients and psychometrists to take on the pain of others because they're sensing it within someone else's energetic field. The last one I talked about was clearing your energy. So let's say, well, the reason why you clear your energy is if you're encountering people who are having pain. So let's say your dad hurt his knee and you go to see your dad and he's got ice on his knee. He's like, oh, you know what? My left knees are really hurting me. It's irritating. I just can't stand this pain anymore. And then he has medication medication to help alleviate the pain that he's experiencing. Now, what you can do around that is, because you're clairsentient, if you're not clearing your field, it's going to actually throw off whether you are holding on to that pain or not. So you'll go home and you'll be like, great, now my knees are hurting, or, oh, you know, maybe I was doing too much gardening earlier after I saw my dad, or maybe I went for too hard of a run. Chances are you're holding on to the energetic frequency that he had within his energy body, and you're carrying it over with you. That's why, that is why it's important to ground your energy, clear your energy, and protect your energy. It's going to make your life a lot easier. Clairaudience. So clairgustance is actually what's known as psychic tasting. It's a bit of a funny ability. You see, this is an ability that I haven't developed, but it is one that I feel is important for people to have a better understanding of. Psychic surgeons and medical intuitives will often rely on abilities such as clairgustance, which is clear tasting, and clairalience, which is clear smelling, to be able to have a better understanding of what their patient is lacking. You see, psychic surgery is not common in the West, although in places like China and Brazil and the Philippines, it is more common and is actually taken quite seriously. Now, the only reason I'm actually sharing about this is I've got a bit of a funny story to tell about it. Now, although clairalience and clairgustance aren't gifts I have developed, I would like for you to have an understanding that psychic abilities differ from person to person, even from psychic to psychic. And I hope this will help give you a better understanding. A month after my father-in-law had died, I went back to doing readings at the metaphysical store I was working out of. And this woman came into the shop, and she had booked a reading with me, so I took her upstairs, and as she sat across on the table from me, I grabbed her hands and I held her hands, receiving her energy flow. It does help you connect better to their guides. Now, I had been reading this woman for about 15, maybe 20 minutes. There was a lot of energetic presences in the room, and all of a sudden, I don't know why, but she was looking very preoccupied throughout the entire reading, and I would stop several times and say, is everything okay? Because I want to make sure, am I connecting to her guides? Because we have a lot of energetic presences in here, more than I have with most people. So it was a little bit surprising to me. And she would say, it's okay, continue. So anyway, at about the 15-20 minute mark, she pulls her hands away from mine and she says, Samantha, I've got to stop you right there. And my first thought was, okay, that's odd, her guides are still talking. And then she looks at me and she says, I've got a man here, and he's claiming to be your father-in-law, and I just can't concentrate on a single thing you're saying with the smell of cigarettes and the smell of beer. And I started laughing and crying. You see, she explained that she was a medium, and that part of her gift was actually around smelling spirits and tasting spirits, but that it made her life very complicated because she was often being followed around by these different deceased people who are very eager to pass on messages to their loved ones. So, can you imagine that while you're talking to these beings, you're tasting some of their favorite foods, you're smelling their perfume, their cologne, if they're a smoker, you'd smell cigarette smoke, if they're a drinker, you're smelling alcohol. I mean, it's got to be a very overwhelming yet fascinating gift. And anyway, I was very happy to have this experience because it helped expand an area of my knowledge that was something that I hadn't actually learnt about up until that point. And I hope that gives you a better indication of what clairgustance and clairalience are. Claircognizance is the ability to receive a clear, strong knowing. A claircognizant is someone who has a lot of mental energy. With claircognizance, your crown chakra has energy flowing inwards and outwards in many directions at once simultaneously. And this is because the claircognizant has downloads of information coming into their energy body. With claircognizance, you can be talking to someone, and while you're talking to that person, you would begin to receive information about them. And let's say you were to ask them a question, like, do you have any big plans for this year? While that person is formulating their response in their head, and before they've even had a chance to respond to you, you would receive a download of information providing you with knowledge that you could not possibly have known. Things like they're going to Cancun, they're swimming with dolphins. It's an interesting ability because claircognizance differs from clairvoyance immensely. With clairvoyance, you'd receive the image of a dolphin, you would have the image of the tropical trees and the sensation of swimming or the seeing of someone swimming. Versus claircognizance, you would not have the information within your own knowing to back up the information you're receiving. Rather, it's just something that you would know within your being to be true, something that's going to occur. Now, this can be a little bit tricky because many people tend to dismiss their claircognitive abilities, or they go the opposite way when they are having a claircognitive experience. Many claircognizants tend to interrupt people, and they'll either answer the question that they've just asked someone else, or things along that nature. And I don't believe that's because claircognizants are attempting to be rude. Rather, I feel it's quite the opposite. I feel as though for a claircognizant, verbal communication is just too slow. And as they're reading the energy that's coming in from one person's mind into the others, it can really make it difficult for them to take the time to be patient and not respond. They're just operating at a faster frequency in one sense. Now, there are some challenges that come along with this gift. The first of which is when you're claircognizant, you have what's known as a built-in lie detector. You can sense when someone's being truthful with you, or you can sense when they're being half-truthful or partially truthful, or if they're being completely dishonest. And this can be a bit of a challenging gift because you'll want to believe the best in people, and sometimes you'll ignore that knowing within yourself if someone is someone you shouldn't actually have around you. Like a friend that, like let's say you're like me, and you meet another person, like another woman who's a psychic, and although in your being you sense that this is someone you shouldn't be around, you will have this natural inclination to want to trust them, want to believe the best in them, because you believe, well, I wouldn't do that, so why would they do that? Things along that nature. Do you see what I'm saying? Another aspect where claircognizance can be difficult is if you have one point of awareness, one understanding, let's say you receive information around a person or a situation, and you're with a group of others, and the general consensus does not coincide with what it is you're feeling and what you're sensing and believing to be true. This isn't necessarily because anyone is right or wrong. It can really be that what these people are about to do, if it's an activity, may not be something that's the right thing for you. Even when it comes to dietary preferences, you may encounter a situation like this. If you're like me, and your body decided to go vegetarian for you, and you go to things like Thanksgiving dinner, where the majority of your family members eat meat and have a very strong belief that all humans must eat meat in order to have enough protein and have enough iron and be healthy, in which case you may have that sensation within you of, no, this is not true, this doesn't work for my body. It is a matter of picking your battles, because what is true for one may not necessarily be true for you. And that is a bit of a challenging concept for a lot of claircognizance, is coming to that point of awareness. Now, within claircognizance, I should mention that there are two gifts within there as well. There is automatic writing, and there's also channeling. With automatic writing, if it's something you haven't done before, then I do recommend that you relax and take about a half an hour before you begin your first automatic writing time to just meditate. And the reason you want to do that is it's going to help clear your vibrational frequency of the energies from other people. It's going to help raise your vibration so that you're more likely to communicate with those of more of a benevolent inclination. And another thing with automatic writing is if you've done it for a long time like I have, you can pick up a pen and a piece of paper and you can do it, or you can just walk up to the computer and be like, okay, these are the questions that someone sent to me. Great, guides, what can you tell me about this area? Okay, what else can you tell me? The real trick with automatic writing is learning how to do it without questioning what you're receiving. You are able to ask questions. So let's say I find out from someone's guide that their relationship is going to be changing over the next year. Rather than questioning, well, what do you mean? Why is it changing? I could ask a question like, okay, in what ways is it changing? What do they need to know about this situation? Rather than just dismissing it and cutting the information out, still take it, but allow for an open mind to be really what gauges how things are going. Another aspect that I had mentioned a moment ago was channeling. And channeling is a really interesting thing because when you're a channel, or when you learn how to channel, you are communicating with someone's deceased loved ones, you are communicating with spirit guides, you're connecting with all sorts of beings. And it is an incredibly easy thing to learn how to do. But a common misconception for those who are newly learning how to channel is the belief that it's okay to channel with anyone. What you really want to do, especially before you're passing on messages to other people, is to develop your other clair abilities. Develop your clairsentience so you can feel the vibration of what's communicating with you. Start to develop your clairvoyance so you can begin to see either an outline or auric colors, because that'll give you an idea of what it is you're talking to. You gotta remember, like, the heavier vibrations tend to be more of things like your browns, blacks, reds, those kind of auric colors. Even gray, it can tell you if something's past or not. Versus when you're talking to something of a higher vibration, it'll be something like purples and blues and whites and silvers and gold. Do you see how there's a very distinct difference? And I'll get more into that in another video, and it's a very fun thing. But the reason that I have to bring up this component of channeling is, if you're like me, I was very excited when I first really started honing in on my psychic abilities and passing on messages. It is a really fun thing. It is a wonderful thing to share information with people and to connect into that heart center. But I hadn't realized at the time that some of the messages I had brought forward were brought forward by people that had passed on. And sometimes it made people feel good, but other times it can be something that actually brings up past hurt. So you do have to be cautious about what you're willing to channel and bring forward. And ask one, would you like to receive a message? Or, I have a message for you, but would you like to receive it? That is a courtesy we should really all try to implement. As you may have noticed throughout my video, the lighting has really changed. And that is because we've had a thunderstorm, well, come through. It was sunny and bright when I started this morning, and now this afternoon it went cloudy for a while and hailed, and now it's back to being beautiful and sunny. So I just thought I'd explain that part. But I hope that gives you a better idea about your clair abilities. If you have any questions, please feel free to post it down below or to send me an email, or if you have an idea about what kind of videos you're interested in. Well, I wish you peace, love, and light. Bye!